Hello everyone, and welcome to a special kind of commentary, or rather, a special kind of game, because this is a game I've been wanting to cover on YouTube forever, and it's actually Super Monkey Ball Deluxe. Now, there are some asterisks and conditions with this. This is actually not an official version of Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, if you can believe it. This is like a fan-made GameCube port, because for some reason Deluxe originally only released for the Xbox and the PS2. For whatever reason, I guess Sega was like, no, the GameCube already has Monkey Ball 1 and 3, so we're just gonna do Deluxe for the other consoles. But see, Deluxe includes like original content, so it's been kind of a funky business since 2005. But Banana Mania, which is a remake, sort of came out a few years ago, and that kind of alleviated that. But I still wanted to do this particular game for YouTube at some point. I had plans for this as far back as Temple of the Azure Flame. I was so close to doing the PS2 version of this, and let me tell you guys, that's not ideal. So I might go into that a bit more, because this is a fairly lengthy commentary. I think this is going to be split into two parts. But anyways, welcome to Super Monkey Ball Deluxe. This is a sort of a compilation, sort of a remaster upgrade of Super Monkey Ball 2. What we're going to be going through is the story mode for the GameCube fan-made port of Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, which is not indicative of the actual Deluxe story mode, actually, the one in the Xbox and PS2 versions. The story mode for those is actually kind of unique in that you get 20 levels for each of these worlds, and you only have to do 10 of the levels. So you can pick like the 10 easiest or the 10 shortest stages, for example. I'm going to be using stages, the terms stages and levels pretty interchangeably, I'm pretty sure. But anyway. Yeah, that was kind of a unique thing with the original Deluxe story mode. For this GameCube fan-made port, it seems like there may have been some, and this is speculation on my part, obviously, because I'm not a developer, I'm a player, you know. Take that out of context at your own risk. Anyways, yeah, I assume there might have been some technical hang-ups to get your actual Deluxe story mode on this, so you're just gonna have to enjoy an abridged version that is also kind of an alternative take to vanilla Monkey Ball 2 story mode. You get 10 stages, and you do have to do all of the 10 stages. Here's the caveat though, and there is an unfortunate downside to this. The stages included in this version of Deluxe's story mode does not include any Monkey Ball 2 levels, which you know, it's going to be weird considering this is Super Monkey Ball 2 story mode. It's the same thing as Deluxe. Deluxe just adapted it to almost like Super Monkey Ball 2.5 or something. So they adapted it, but yeah. Here's the thing though, like, you get a trade-off between the GameCube version of Deluxe and the other versions of Deluxe, as far as the story mode is concerned. So for the Xbox and PS2 versions, you get the 20 levels that you can do only 10 of, and that's actually pretty cool. It gives you like variety and makes every playthrough potentially distinct from the previous. Whereas with this version, it's pretty much going to be the same thing every time, same thing with vanilla Monkey Ball 2 story mode, but the trade-off is that on Xbox and PS2, the story mode cutscenes, which I'm choosing to leave for this commentary because you might find it confusing. If I talk over them, I apologize. This game doesn't have proper voice acting, so I think it's okay if I talk over it. If it had actual voice acting, that's when I would show up. But anyway, my point is, on Xbox and PS2, for some reason the cutscenes are not in-engine, they're pre-rendered, which wouldn't be that bad, but the thing is, they're pre-rendered at a lower quality and a lower frame rate, among other things. So I used to play Xbox version of Monkey Ball Deluxe for several years, actually. It's kind of funny, I actually even had an Xbox for a time, but that's a whole other story in itself. That time I tried out Xbox for a generation, or half of a generation rather, and just wound up going back to PlayStation. Anyway, with that, it's like everything else about it was solid, but there were two issues, being the story mode cutscenes. Actually, it also extends to the cutscenes you get at the end of a challenge mode too. Those were also negatively impacted for whatever reason. And then another thing too is the controls on Xbox and PS2. Apparently, they're not as versatile. Like, you don't get as much movement range, is what I looked into. Which is really funny because the DualShock is like noted as one of the better, for a while, like was kind of considered one of the best controllers. So Nintendo finally got their stuff together with like the Wii U Pro controllers and having two proper sticks instead of a little C stick for the GameCube controller, which I always thought was fine, but it is different from the control sticks. So it's like whatever. But yeah, as far as like which version of Deluxe should you play, I think nowadays you should be going for this version. But that there is an asterisk to that. That the official quote-unquote versions of Super Monkey Ball Deluxe do offer a little something. That said, skip the cutscenes on Xbox and PS2. Ideally, just play the Xbox version because the PS2 version is even worse. It has like micro loading in between the levels. The graphics are downgraded a little bit too. And I'm just like, I don't necessarily play games for the graphics, but there's literally an option to not have to deal with the graphical downgrade. Although I guess nowadays I would go for PS2 just because I've decided not to really go back to Xbox unless like, I do have maybe one or two reasons to go back to Xbox, but I don't know. That's not really a discussion for here. At any rate, the story of Monkey Ball 2 and by extension Deluxe is that Dr. Baboon shows up. He's a big bad baboon. Apparently he may have actually traveled from the future, if you go by the story and the lore of Super Monkey Ball Adventure. Oh man, that game is a whole nother can of bananas. I actually have quite a history with the Monkey Ball Adventure. Not sure if I want to go into it right this second. But yeah, I'm leaving in these cutscenes just so you see that the cutscenes are in good quality, and also showing how good of a port job the fans did with the GameCube port of Monkey Ball Deluxe, which I've seen some people call it Monkey Ball Deluxe in Monkey Ball 2 or Deluxe in Monkey Ball 2. Just call it Super Monkey Ball Deluxe. As far as I'm concerned, this is, I mean, it didn't come out until like 2020, which is like 15 years after the original Xbox and PS2 versions. This is a legitimate version of Super Monkey Ball Deluxe that I will recommend to people because it's fairly easy to get a hold of. Like, okay, there's no actual physical GameCube disc for this, but you don't need that. You just download the ISO file, which is pretty easy to find, and you can run it on your Wii or Wii U the exact same you would with any other GameCube backup. It's crazy. That's how I'm doing it. I'm playing it via Nintendo. So, yeah, there you go. Anyways, so here we are in the volcano world. I will say this is a very nice aesthetic. Now, it is kind of unusual for a game to have a fire-themed world so early on. Usually that's like either the last world archetype or maybe the penultimate one. But actually, fun fact, the challenge mode and the story mode world order for Monkey Ball 2, which sort of adapted for Deluxe, but really Deluxe challenge modes are different and much bigger and meatier. So much so that I wouldn't do a commentary for that because it would just be like nothing but straight levels back to back, and I'd probably run out of stuff to say. I might run out of stuff to say here because this is going to be like an hour and 20 minutes, but it's going to be split into two parts. So it should be good. But at any rate, the volcano world archetype, yeah, it's usually like last, or or close to it. And funny thing is, in Monkey Ball 2's challenge mode, it is the second to last background in the Expert, which is the final normal difficulty. There's also Master, that's really more like a post after the fact. Although in the original Monkey Ball, I think that you do have to do Master to get the ending. I'm not sure, because I am not an expert on the original Super Monkey Ball. I have never been able to unlock the levels and beat the game without using some kind of assistance. Whether it be cheats or actually, there is an action replay code to access the debug menu. There's a code like that for all of the GameCube Monkey Ball games, or at least the ones that matter, which being 1 and 2. And since the GameCube version of Deluxe is basically Monkey Ball 2, you can use cheat code files for Monkey Ball 2 and adapt it to Deluxe. All you gotta do is change the last 2 letters or numbers or whatever in the file name to DX instead of whatever it is. There you go. I've tested it out and it does work. That's how I was able to get maximum play points, which I use just the same on the grinding. I don't use... When it comes to making the videos for YouTube and playthroughs, I never use cheats to make it, like, invalidated, because I still want to feel like I played through the game most of the time. I only ever really use cheat codes to save time that would normally be used on grinding. For example, getting infinite rupees in a Zelda game. I guess getting infinite money in pretty much any game that has money in it. In the case of Super Monkey Ball, having infinite lives, that way you can go through Expert mode, because in the original Monkey Ball you have to go through Expert and Expert Extra without using a continue. You can use as many lives as you want, you just can't use a continue. So if you use an action replay code to give yourself 99 lives and you never run out, actually, for some whatever reason too, in the original Monkey Ball, you can unlock infinite continues. You can't do that in Monkey Ball 2, which is kind of weird. But to make up for it in Monkey Ball 2, you can normally unlock, or I should say naturally unlock the ability to have 99 lives at the start of the challenge, instead of having to use an action replay cheat for it, which you have to for the original game. And I did some research into it, and I don't think there's too many people on this planet that are capable of going through the entirety of Super Monkey Ball 1, beginning all the way to Master, without losing at least a life or 2. With enough practice, I think you can consistently clear most levels in the original Monkey Ball without losing a life. However, there are factors to consider. You might be using a controller that's aged. I'll tell you this right now. This is the recording of this. I have 2 GameCube controllers. I have a wired third-party controller that's kind of crappy, and I have a Waver controller. It's actually, I have a really good story to tell about the Waver controller I had. Used to be I had 2 of them. I had an original gray one that I got near the launch of it in 2003, when wireless controllers were starting to become a really novel but useful thingamajig. That was the first wireless controller I ever owned. And in a way I still do own it. I'm getting ahead of myself. And then later on Nintendo did a Platinum Waver. And I think it was $5 more expensive, but it came out around Christmas time. And at that time, I was still a kid, so I had friends to play with, so it just seemed like a pretty good idea to get that. So that way me and a friend of mine, I never really played with more than one friend at a time. So anyway, me and my friend could, have a really quality, almost at the time futuristic gaming experience. He and I put a lot of time and play into those 2 wafers. And I'm going to remind you, this was in 2003. I don't know what year you're watching this commentary in. I'm going to assume it's 2024, 2025, something like that. So over 2 decades. That's pretty crazy for controllers. And as I've alluded to, in a way, those controllers are still alive in my care, but through the time and usage, the control sticks on those did wear out. And among other things. So what I wound up doing is that I had to take pieces of each Wavebird controller and using some tools I had to get a hold of, I merged them together to make a new Frankenstein Wavebird that's half gray, half platinum. The platinum coloring is on the front, the gray is on the back. So I still have a GameCube Wavebird, but I had to kind of jury-rig it in order to hopelessly extend its lifespan, because Wavebirds are a lot more valuable nowadays than they were back in the day. I don't even know if you can buy a brand new Wavebird. If you can, I wouldn't be surprised if it was close to the triple Ds. And when it comes to game controllers, you probably don't want to buy a used one, unless you know for sure it's like gently used. Even then, I would be cautious. So yeah, I've been using that. I've actually been thinking about investing in a new one. Probably should, because the third-party wired controller I have is like, it doesn't even have the Nintendo logo on it. The shade of purple is weird. Sometimes the A and the B buttons will do double inputs. Sometimes the control stick doesn't work right. And that controller I've only had for a few years. The Wavebird has like a loose control stick where if I leave it alone for a while, sometimes a character will just move on its own. It's happened to me during the recording of the Super Monkey Ball games I've been doing. It's just kind of been annoying to be true, but it's really funny that a 20-plus-year-old Wavebird is handling itself better than a third-party controller I've only had for a couple of years. That I have put some use into, and that is exactly. Anyways, now we're entering the underwater archetype for Monkey Ball 2, and actually this is roughly equal to what you'd expect in an average game, usually a platformer. The water world will usually be like somewhere in the early middle, usually like the third world, I'd say. I think it's the third world in like Mario 3 or one of those other Mario games. I think like one of the new Super Mario Bros. Games has it as like the third or fourth world. Maybe a couple of them have done that. So this is actually fairly on point. And in the challenge mode, the water background is smack dab in the middle of the advanced difficulty, which was renamed to normal difficulty for Banana Mania for some reason. I guess they might adapt that for the new Monkey Ball game that's coming out a few days from the recording of this. Just a couple days. Banana Rumble. That looks pretty interesting. But anyway. Yeah, so another thing I'm doing for story mode is that whenever I have a chance, I do try to go for like the alternate goals, which are usually green or red. If you do those in challenge mode, you actually warp ahead several levels. Now in Monkey Ball 2, and going forward, whenever I say Monkey Ball 2, just assume I'm also talking about Deluxe, because like I said, Deluxe is basically Super Monkey Ball 2.5, okay? So in Super Monkey Ball 2, the warp goals are simple. You go through the blue one level, normal. Go through the green one, you skip 2. Go through the red, a lot of those are really hard, by the way, but you do skip 3 levels. But something about the original Monkey Ball that I noticed, not really myself, because the only time I ever go back to Monkey Ball 1 is trying to record a long play for YouTube, so I'm doing all levels, so I don't go for the warps, naturally. But if I did, hypothetically, I've done it before, actually. So I noticed that the warping in Monkey Ball 1 is inconsistent. Like, off the top of my head, I know there's like a green goal, I want to say early on in the advanced difficulty of those levels, that warps you like 4 levels ahead. And I'm just thinking to myself, if a green goal warps you 4 ahead, I wonder how much ahead you get if you got a red goal. Not that there were too many of those in Monkey Ball 1. So, yeah. But, yeah, so the water background is like pretty much on point. It's really weird, the ordering of the story mode backgrounds compared compared to the challenge mode backgrounds for Monkey Ball 2. Obviously the jungle is on point as the first one. The water one is pretty accurate as well. But in the challenge mode, the second background is the amusement park. I'm gonna spoil a little bit. That's the fifth world in the story mode, which is weird. There's a reason that was so early on in the challenge mode. It's an amusement park. It's supposed to be easy going, But in story mode, it's right in the middle. But it's still talking about the context of the Monkey Ball 2 story mode, not this one. I found that the first really difficult world would be the fourth one, which we're about to go to, so I may as well not spoil it. Which we're about to go to. It's actually the last normal background in challenge mode in Expert, right before you get to space and stuff, which is crazy. The space backgrounds in the first two Monkey Ball games are pretty much associated with the extra stages. It gives them an air of mystery. So those aren't really worth talking about too much. They do show up in some of the normal levels in Deluxe's challenge modes, but that's just mostly because the Deluxe mode challenge modes, the Monkey Ball Deluxe challenge modes, are so large and meaty that they cycle through the backgrounds every 5 levels for a while, and then it slows down. That by the time you get to the end of the Expert mode Deluxe, you've just Expert alone, because it has 100 stages, not counting the extra stages. You actually see every single background type except for 2. And I validated this because I watched someone do a speedrun of it. I haven't actually recorded it yet for the channel, at this point. Anyways, yeah, I watched someone do a speedrun, and they cycled through every background in the 100 levels except for 2. Technically 3, because they didn't go through the Monkey Ball 1 space theme. They do that for the last 5 levels of the advanced difficulty in Deluxe, which is interesting. Not counting the space backgrounds, they go through every other background type in Deluxe's Expert, except for 2. And those 2 backgrounds are the Super Monkey Ball 2 jungle theme, which is understandable because it's kind of redundant. The Super Monkey Ball 1 jungle background. They used the Monkey Ball 2 jungle background for 5 stages. It's 5 or 4 stages in Deluxe's beginner mode. Stages 5 through 9, I want to say. 5, 6, 8, something like that. But they also don't do the volcano background, which I thought was strange. That's the second to last one in Monkey Ball 2's Expert mode. Right before the one we're about to go into here in the story mode, which Dr. Baboon generously tries to warn Ai and his crew. They're just like, nah, man, you're just trying to mess with us. They're gonna get eaten up by a whale. Now, in the context of the story mode, going from underwater to the inside of a whale makes so much sense that it almost hurts the brain. It makes that much sense. By the way, that quote from Baby is probably my least favorite bit of dialogue in any Monkey Ball game. I know that's not saying a lot, but it's not saying a lot. And I'm saying that the context of Monkey Ball Adventure in mind. I see we're almost done with this commentary part, and I haven't even gotten to talk about Monkey Ball Adventure yet. Good thing there's another part where I can do that. Also note that Gongon's G on his shirt is in Comic Sans font. Let's also point that out. Now I can't unsee it. Yeah, now we're inside of a whale, and this is one of my favorite background themes of the series. The music theme that you can hear. I don't know if it's going to go through in the commentary. I have to lower the volume down a bit on these so you understand. Actually, the music for Monkey Ball games in general is great, especially the first two. But the theme for the whale is really good. It's not something you'd expect, but it's just really good and it's going to stick in your head and it's a very memorable track. Now, I do think that Banana Mania's remix of it is also solid, but it's more of a different take than an outright replacement. I find that to be the case for a lot of Banana Mania's remixes. You know, take that for what it is. But yeah, I just really like the dark blue overall aesthetic, because blue is my favorite color, and specifically dark blue shades. So I actually find myself gravitating a bit more to the more muted blue shadings of the whale background, as opposed to water. But you know, it's really funny, because in the context of the challenge mode of Monkey Ball 2, I actually find it to be a lot more potent. Did I say that right? Fitting might be accurate. Because without the context of the story mode cutscenes, you're just gonna get to this in the challenge mode and you're being like, what the heck? So just to compare it to Monkey Ball 1, Monkey Ball 1's final background, normal background theme, is called Storm, which is kind of like a, I want to say it's a Roman Greek kind of background with a lot of rain and thunder, hence the name Storm. Probably my favorite, one of my favorite music tracks in the series, which is saying a lot. And my second favorite background for Monkey Ball 1 after the ice theme. If you ever see that, you're not going to see it for this commentary series because it's just going over Monkey Ball 2 backgrounds, but do look that up if you ever get a chance. The music track for the ice levels in Monkey Ball 1 is also original or Banana Mania version of the track. So, I actually want to talk about this now, before I forget myself, because in this version of the Deluxe Story Mode, the GameCube fan-made port, you're only going to go through Monkey Ball 1 and Monkey Ball Deluxe original stages. But you don't go through all of the Deluxe original stages. And I need to bring this up now because starting with the next world, we won't be seeing any more Deluxe levels, even though some of them go unused for some reason. I don't know what happened with the band, the developers on this. Even though they're fans as a fan game, I can still call them developers. That's what it's respectful. I think the developers for this version might have just they probably wanted to use every single normal Monkey Ball level, so the Deluxe levels were just a means to an end, a way to pad it out. That's why we don't see every single Deluxe level here. I can already tell you that there's one Deluxe level they added for the Expert mode. It's the only one in the 100 stages. It's called Asterisk. It's right at the end of it. They also don't use any extra stages for the story mode, which is kind of funny because in the Monkey Ball 2 story mode, they actually did use 9 stages from Beginner Extra as filler in the story mode. And the Super Monkey Ball 2 story mode has 10 completely exclusive stages in the final world, which unfortunately were not translated or carried over for this version. And that might be a sticking point for some, which, look, I get it, but consider this. This version of Monkey Ball Deluxe is on the same console as OG Monkey Ball 2. So if you really want to play those 10 stages, if you're using Nintendo, all you gotta do is back out of the game, go back to the Nintendo menu, and play Super Monkey Ball 2. If you already did the story mode, you can access the stages from the level select. It's as easy as that. Sorry, it's just... And I'm pretty sure the developers on this took that into account. There's just no way they didn't. Because there's a difference, okay, between Xbox and PS2 and GameCube. On Xbox and PS2, Deluxe was the only Monkey Ball game. Or I should say on Xbox it was the only Monkey Ball game. On PS2, the only other Monkey Ball game was Monkey Ball Adventure. And while I don't hate the game as much as I did many years, oh man, you don't want to share real estate with Monkey Ball Adventure. Or I should say, if the only Monkey Ball games you have on PS2 are a botched port of Deluxe and Super Monkey Ball Adventure, you're not looking too hot. But I'll save my thoughts on Monkey Ball Adventure for the second part of this commentary so people have something to look forward to. At any rate, we are finishing up our business with the whale. Obviously, I think they were inspired by, Pinocchio, Monstro, the whale that he meets Pinocchio and Geppetto. Nowadays, people might be more familiar with the Kingdom Hearts take on that, because that was like one of the first worlds in this Kingdom Hearts series. It's like in the middle of the first game. It just kind of comes out of nowhere, blindsides you. Now, I did watch Pinocchio before I played Kingdom Hearts, but I'd watched it so young that well, even then, like, Monstro isn't as that big of a segment in the movie, but obviously getting a whole level in Kingdom Hearts, that's probably going to leave a stronger impression on you if you happen to indulge in both forms of media. But at any rate, now that we're getting into the fifth world of Deluxe's, GameCube Deluxe's story mode, I do want to talk about the difficulty curve here. So, in Monkey Ball 2, I found myself getting stuck on the fourth world when I first played the game. I remember being stuck on the fourth world because of launchers and arthropod. For better or for worse, you don't have to play those levels in this story, which some people might see as a plus, because those levels were kind of... it's weird. You feel like those levels are some of the most difficult levels ever, but in the context of the greater Monkey Ball series, factoring in the original and some of the deluxe original levels and everything, once you know what to do, launchers and arthropod are more mid than anything else. But it doesn't take away from the first time experience, being stuck in World 4 because of those two levels. But there are some other levels too that I got stuck on occasionally. Not as a kid, I brute forced them, got through them. It's thinking like seesaw bridges, pro skater, coin slots. Oh my god, coin slots! If you don't know what to do with coin slots, I could see that being worse than launcher or arthropod, to tell you the truth. You have to know the right exact second to go to get either the green goal or one of the regular goals. Ideally, the closest one after the green goal. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. But then I also got stuck on World 6, World the Boiling Pot. See that next time on Let's Play Super Monkey Ball Deluxe. Calm down, we still got a few minutes. Why do people get so excited like you're already about to post a comment? You still got like 5 minutes of this. Chill before you post your comment. But thank you anyway. But anyway, we're in the amusement park. I mentioned earlier this is like the second background type. This is what you see at the end of the beginner mode in Monkey Ball 2. But it got buffed in story mode. Baby's angry face. I've never really looked at it before. It's kind of funny. Almost kind of looks angrier than Gon Gon. Gon Gon normally looks angry. He always had that anger. Even when he's smiling, he's still got the forehead scrunched up. It's kind of funny. I've always seen Gon Gon as like the Knuckles of Monkey Ball, and Baby's like the Tails. Baby is 80. Names rhyme. I is Sonic. This is probably a good time to mention that when it comes to my tastes in Sega characters in their series, I'm surprisingly vanilla. My favorite Sonic character is Sonic. My favorite Monkey Ball character is I. Although I will say that in the case of Sonic, I could see an argument for like Knuckles or Shadows. Those would be like my second and third favorite characters. The positions of which can switch depending on the context. Like, we're talking about the classic series, Shadow isn't the thing, so yeah, Knuckles is like really cool. In newer games, depending on the game again, Shadow sometimes I think is cooler than Knuckles. Sometimes, at least in Adventure 2, I know for sure. But when it comes to Monkey Ball, I find that my likes of the characters are still mostly equal. It's just that I edges out the others. Just edges them out. That's all I'm saying. Exam B. I'll be talking about Exam C in the next part. Oh god, that level was quite the filter when I finally got around to trying to beat Monkey Ball 1. And I thought there wasn't a game harder than doing 100% the original Crash Bandicoot. Boy, was I wrong. But, yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit there. But, yeah, I think I was talking about Monkey Ball characters. Yeah, I like Baby, I like Mimi, and I like Gon Gon. Like, those three are pretty much equal. my look, and I just edges them out. I want to say it might partially be because as a kid, I didn't play Monkey Ball 1 as much because of how hard it was. I mostly just played Monkey Target. And then Monkey Ball 2 didn't even take a year to come out. It came out the next summer. And that was the Monkey Ball game I gravitated towards and I loved and put all my time into back in the day. And doing the story mode was a great way to get play points because you get infinite lives. And you just retry the levels over and over. And of course, I got stuck. That was how I handled the game at first. I got stuck in the levels. I mentioned launchers and arthropod. But in story mode, you're forced to play as Ai. This is also true for Deluxe. So I just kind of got used to Ai, I think. I got used to his voice clips and all that. It's kind of what I associate the series with now as a result of it, really. Nowadays, when I do Monkey Ball, I will play as different characters depending on the difficulty. I'll pick Baby for beginner, just it's obvious. I'll pick Mimi for advanced, and depending on the game, I'll pick Gon Gon for expert. And then I save the best for last. I pick Ai for master. And master only has a fraction of the levels of advanced and expert, so Ai manages to catch up in usage just from story mode. That's just how that works out. But yeah, and I will say it's interesting to see all of these Monkey Ball 1 levels with like the Monkey Ball 2 backgrounds. Oh yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought earlier talking about the deluxe levels. Now that we're done with them for this story mode, I kind of want to get final thoughts on those. I find that the deluxe levels are pretty solid for the most part. In my experience, the deluxe levels you do during the normal challenge modes of deluxe, like beginner and advanced, are pretty good. The ones that I find to be a lot more problematic in my experience are some of the ones they came up with for the extra stages. Because in Monkey Ball 1, you only had 3 beginner extra and 5 advanced extra. So for Deluxe, they had to fill in the blanks. So they made 7 extra more stages for beginner and 5 more for advanced. And oh my god, there's this one in advanced called Chaos. It's one of the worst levels in the series, I'm sorry. Even when you know, even if you find the skip, it's still bad. And this is actually one of my favorite levels in Monkey Ball 1. It's called Labyrinth. So levels don't have names in the original Monkey Ball. It's fun fact. And you go for the green goal or you go for the normal goal, it's still a pretty fun time. I think I go for the green goal here. Should. So we're probably actually getting to the end of this, so this is going to be the end of part 1 of Let's Play Super Monkey Ball Deluxe. Oh, I am going for the green goal, because this is easier than the actual way. It's great. Yeah, it's going to be the end of part 1. I'll see you guys for part 2, where we'll finish off the second half of the story mode. Enjoy the cutscene and have a good rest of your day.